In this video, I will answer the question whether you need to watch him in order to understand reminders of him. Hi everyone and welcome to another video, and today we will be talking about Reminders of Him, another story from Colleen Hoover, who, as we established before, is a very polarizing writer. I'm not going to read the book because I'm lazy, so I did what everyone would do if they have a book report due. I just watched the movie. So without further ado, let's break down the movie. Grab your drinks, grab your snacks, now! Or if you're watching this to fall asleep too, I'm sorry for screaming. Actually, let me sing you to sleep. This kind of day couldn't get much better, but it keeps on trying. Oh god, that was so bad. To be vulnerable for a moment, my dream role is actually SpongeBob in the SpongeBob musical. Manifest it with me, guys. Anyway, on to the recap. The movie opens with our protagonist, Kenna Rowan, in a taxi cab. Kenna suddenly tells the driver to pull over. She stepped out of the cab onto this side of the road where there's this memorial for a guy named Scotty Landry. In a voiceover, Kenna is like, "Dear Scotty, I know you hate memorials, so I'm actually doing this for you." She destroys the memorial, kicks it down and steals the wooden cross that's, I think, supposed to be the tombstone? She goes back to the taxi where it continues driving into a small town. At the same time, Kenna continues to narrate to the audience. The format of her narration is like her writing letters to this Scotty guy. She writes to Scotty about how she just got out of prison after being there for 7 years. Kenna finally arrives at this cheap apartment complex and it's ran by Jocelyn Shit from Schitt's Creek. It's not really important, but I thought I should just point it out because I love Schitt's Creek. She secured her apartment, and since she secured the apartment, she ventures out to do a job hunt. But it's quite hard for Kenna because she just got out of prison. She goes into restaurants and shops and she's like, "Hey, are you looking for help?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, sure." But then after they found out that she's a former convict, they're like, "Actually, we can't hire you." A lady at the diner tells Kenna to try the Dollar Tree or the dollar store. I can't remember what it was called, but it was a dollar store essentially. The lady in the diner tells Kenna to go there because they're always hiring. This prompts Kenna to remember her meet cute with JJ Maybank. Sorry, I mean Scotty. Kenna was working at the dollar store when Scotty walked in. They bantered as you do, flirting as you do, which I honestly cannot relate to because I'm Asian and we don't do small talks. Or maybe you're Asian and you actually do small talk and I'm like an outlier. I'm just the only one who doesn't do small talks. I'm sorry for stereotyping us, guys. Anyway, clearly Kenna and Scotty were attracted to each other, so they started dating. Back to the present, Kenna still struggles to find a job. She decides, you know what, I'll try the bookstore that me and Scotty used to really like and see if they have a job there. She goes to the location and finds out that the bookstore has been turned into a bar. She's like, "Who turned this place into a bar?" And the owner/bartender is like, "I did, actually." Kenna tries to order a coffee even though it's a bar. The bartender/owner, his name is Ledger, as in Ledger from the "I've got red in my ledger, I'd like to wipe it out" fame. Yeah, so Ledger made Kenna the coffee nonetheless. It appears that he might have a crush on her. Kenna and Ledger banter, flirt. Again, I cannot relate. They haven't exchanged names at this rate. But suddenly someone called out Ledger's name and Kenna's like, I gotta go. As it turns out, Ledger was Scotty's best friend. Kenna and Ledger never met each other officially, even though they have close proximity to Scotty. Kenna and Ledger are aware of each other's presence, but they never see each other face to face. That's because Ledger was not in the town when Kenna and Scotty were dating, because Ledger was off doing NFL stuff, football stuff. He was busy. But I don't know, because it's Ledger and Scotty are supposed to be these really close friends. And it's do you not show a picture of your significant other to your best friend? I feel when my best friends have significant others, they're always okay, so here's a picture. Is this a guy thing? Do you guys not talk about the people that you guys are dating to each other? I'm sorry for the stereotypes. Seriously, do you guys not do that? Is it not weird that they've never seen each other? And it's also weird because Scotty and Ledger did FaceTime at some point in the movie. So it's not because the technology prevents them from knowing each other's faces. So Scotty never FaceTimed Ledger with Kenna by his side. let's not think too much about that because there's so many plot holes otherwise. Moving on. Ledger doesn't know that he's been flirting with Kenna, his late best friend's girlfriend and mother of Scotty's child. Yes! You heard right. It wouldn't be a Colleen Hoover book without a baby. Let me explain the whole thing. Okay, Kenna and Scotty were going strong. They loved each other to the point that Scotty wanted to propose. He was going to propose during his birthday party and he was hoping Ledger would be there, but Ledger couldn't make it because he was busy footballing. Scotty was sad because of the absence, so Kenna wanted to cheer him up and asked him if he wanted to go to this lake that was his favorite spot. His parents, Grace and Patrick, were kind of like, wait, hold on, you guys are gonna go now? So there's like a little bit of tension between the parents and Kenna. Regardless, Kenna and Scotty left and went to the lake. They swam, they did pot, as people do from what I've seen in the media. As they were driving back, I think they hit something and the collision was so bad that the car toppled over and rolled down the hill. When the car reached the bottom of the hill and it stopped rolling, it was upside down, like flipped over. But Kenna managed to get out of her seat and she checked for Scotty's pulse and there was none. But she still exited the car and she hitchhiked hoping to get somebody to help them. But Kenna was losing blood and stuff like that, so she collapsed and she passed out. The sheriffs the next day found her and they were like, girl, you left Scotty to die. Turns out, Scotty was still alive when Kenna left. He broke his arm or I think he squished it too hard to the point that the pulse wouldn't register, it wouldn't reach there. I don't know the medical term, but I guess it makes sense. But anyway, that's the arm that Kenna checked for the pulse when, actually he has a pulse, it just didn't register in that arm. But anyway, it wasn't a good look because it looked like Kenna abandoned him to die. Finding out about this, Grace and Patrick blamed Kenna for this and they eventually had a grudge on her. The whole thing made Kenna feel incredibly guilty, so she pled guilty to manslaughter and they sentenced her to 7 years in prison. But she didn't realize that she was pregnant with Scotty's child. She only found out when she was in prison. Had she known, she would have pled not guilty. But it was done. Kenna was in prison and she gave birth to a daughter that was named Diem, as in Diem from Carpe Diem. Yeah. You know what? I've actually heard worse names. When Kenna gave birth, however, Diem was born premature, so the doctors immediately ripped Diem away so they could put Diem into the NICU. I actually thought that this scene was really sad. As soon as Diem was out of Kenna, they literally took her away. And Kenna was so sad about it because she couldn't hold her daughter. And I actually thought the scene was effective, but it was cut too short. If only they let the scene play out for a little bit longer. But anyway, it was really sad. At least let her hold the baby. But they didn't even let her hold the baby. Kenna's maternity rights were revoked, so Diem had been under the care of Scotty's parents. Knowing that Diem is out there, Kenna was determined to serve her sentence, get out, get her life together, and see her daughter again. Throughout all of this, Ledger returned back to the small town because he got an injury on his shoulders, and presumably because he also felt guilty for not being there for Scotty, because that's the whole reason Scotty left anyway, and Ledger became an uncle to Diem, a paternal figure of sorts. Let's go back to the main timeline. The next day, Kenna continues looking for a job. At the grocery store, she is rejected again, but the assistant manager, Amy, is really nice, and she takes pity on Kenna and gets Kenna a job as a bagger. Kenna is excited. She got a job. She got her life sort of somewhat together, she has a place, she has a job, so now she can finally visit Diem. So Kenna goes to the Landry's house and Ledger is there as well. He goes out and meets Kenna on the front lawn and he's like, oh, how do you know where I live, girl? Because he lives across from the Landry's. And Kenna's like, I'm actually not here for you. I'm here to see someone else. And Ledger's like, oh, wait. No. And I swear, it's not supposed to be funny, but it was so funny to me because this man proceeds to treat this with the urgency of a SWAT operation. He literally drags Kenna away from the Landry's property and Grace goes outside, right? She opens the door because there was this commotion and she's like, Ledger, what happened? And Ledger screamed to Grace Grace, get back inside. Do not let Diem out. Stay inside. But it was so weirdly intense. Anyway, Ledger drags Kenna to his house and, you know, like puts her in the house, and he explains to her, do not go near Diem. Diem has a good life. Do not mess this up, you criminal. Kenna tries to rebel, but Ledger still manages to get her away from the Landry's house. Again, SWAT operation for him apparently. At that rate, Kenna is like, fine, like whatever. So she returns home. Ledger does feel bad about this, but his devotion still lies first and foremost on the Landrys. Anyway, Kenna starts her new job at the grocery store, and Ledger meets her there because he's shopping. I think it's the only grocery store at that area. So they meet each other again, and then they banter and chat and stuff. And after shopping, Ledger is like, it's gonna rain really bad tonight. Do you need a ride? Will you be okay? And Kenna relents and accepts the offer, and so begins the tradition of Ledger driving Kenna home. One day, Kenna is working at the grocery store while at his bar, Ledger is FaceTiming Diem because Diem is an iPad kid, of course. Diem reveals that she and Grace are going to the grocery store. And again, with the precision and urgency of a whole SWAT team condensed into one man, Ledger executes an operation to stop the Landrys from meeting Kenna. He drives his car to like reach the grocery store before the Landrys, and he reaches there and he's like, get back. It's not supposed to be funny because it's also low-key sad because Kenna sees the Landrys approaching the store and she's so excited to say hi. So she ran out, but Ledger is out there like rushing the Landrys to go back to the car and to drive home. Oh my god, it was so intense. I have no idea, but it was so intense. It was unintentionally so funny. Rightfully, Kenna is upset because it's not like she seeks them out, you know, like she's been keeping her distance, and this would have been more like a chance meeting, and she just wants to say hi. So you can see how this whole thing is like really frustrating for her, right? Seeing the commotion outside, Amy, the store manager, comes out and she's asking Kenna, what's going on? Are you okay? You look very stressed out and stuff like that. And literally, this woman is like the best boss ever. She sees Kenna being very distressed, and Amy's like, do you need to take the rest of the day off? Like, you should go do that. I'll talk to the manager, make sure he doesn't fire you and stuff. Like, literally, MVP. So Kenna does exactly that. She takes the rest of the day off and Ledger follows her. They sit on this field and Kenna pours her heart out about how she just wants to see her daughter. She just wants to see the human being that she and Scotty created. Ledger feels bad, so he tells Kenna about Diem and showed a video of Diem to Kenna, which makes her incredibly happy. Ledger drives Kenna home and they talk a bit more, and Kenna makes a passing comment about how she barely makes enough to pay her rent, so Ledger offers her a job at his bar. Kenna starts working at Ledger's bar and learns more about Ledger from his co-workers. And she also finds out that he used to have a fiance, but the fiance got jealous because he pays more attention on Diem, so they broke up. Like, girl, why are you beefing with a 5-year-old? As Kenna works at Ledger's bar, they grow to respect one another, and Ledger often drives Kenna home, so they spend a significant amount of time together. And you know, there's sparks between them. Through Ledger, Kenna also gets to learn about her daughter, which is enough for her at the moment. What happened next, I can't remember if this is like the sequence of events, but I'm not gonna pay to watch this movie twice. Fact check me on Wikipedia. So this one night, after driving Kenna home, Ledger helps carry a couple of furniture into her apartment. Kenna doesn't have a lot of furniture in her apartment, like not even a mattress, so Ledger is like, okay, hold on, and he grabs an air mattress from his truck. He's helping Kenna set up the air mattress, and as he's crouching on the floor, he sees Scotty's wooden memorial cross tombstone thing under the kitchen counter, and he's angry. He's like, Kenna, you stole that. You're not supposed to do that. That's not nice. That's not good. Kenna keeps defending herself, saying Scotty would have hated a memorial for himself, so she took that away. They argue a bit, and Kenna tells Ledger to leave. She opens the door, and Ledger crowds in on her and like shuts the door. You know like that Korean pose? Legit, that is like my biggest fear. A man in my space? And Ledger is huge, right? Like, Tyriq is 6'5", like he's tall. But anyway, I think like Kenna's probably into it because he's leaning down and crowding in on her, and then they kiss. Kenna breaks it off because it's wrong. Like, that's Scotty's best friend. She's like, no, this can't happen. This cannot happen. So Ledger leaves. Then, I think a couple of days later, it's a long movie actually, Kenna is working at the grocery store and she got served papers. She got a restraining order from the Landrys, which really hurts her because she hasn't made an attempt to contact or even go near them. But still, she has the restraining order and she's really upset, and she texts Ledger about that. Ledger Ledger comes over to cheer Kenna up by taking her to a snow cone stall that he and Diem frequents. Oh my god, I just realized Diem, it can also be like per diem money. Anyway, they got themselves snow cones and Ledger helps Kenna order the flavor that Diem likes. This is kind of sweet because Kenna gets to feel closer to her daughter through her daughter's favorite snow cone. While they eat the snow cone, Ledger and Kenna banter, of course. And as they are talking, Kenna is like, it's so funny that a football star like you end up being stuck back here, living a modest life. Where's your mansion? And Ledger's like, yeah, I do have a house. It's taken 4 years, but it's being built. Do you want to see? So he takes her to the house. And here's another funny thing. Not because it's intentionally funny or anything, but it's only because I immediately thought about the cottage from Heated Rivalry when they got to the Ledger's house. The house is in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of nature, and it has that minimalistic house aesthetic with glass walls and stuff. Yeah, so it's quite similar to the cottage. Anyway, man's got property. Of course, when they got there, Kenna's like, oh god, this is fancy. Why haven't you moved? And Ledger says he doesn't want to move away because that means being further away from the Landrys. He can't just walk across the street to meet them if he moved into the new house. Kenna respects the devotion, but she's also like, you do need to do what makes you happy. Like, you can't just keep living your life as a replacement of Scotty to Patrick, Grace, and Diem. After this little jaunt, they go to work and suddenly the Landrys show up to the bar. As a result, Kenna has to rush out of the bar to prevent breaking the restraining order because I can imagine it'll look much worse because she's a convicted felon. So she ran in the middle of the rain to her apartment. After the shift, Ledger goes to visit Kenna and he's like, thank you. You didn't have to do that. You didn't have to run. Kenna is like, this could have been a text. And Ledger's like, yeah. And then they kiss and they consummate the relationship. The morning after, Ledger sees Kenna writing something down and he knows that Kenna carries around these books, these notepads. He asks Kenna what she writes and Kenna tells him how she writes letters to Scotty. Very PS I love you of her. Ledger asks Kenna to read a letter and she does. And the letter is about how she banked Scotty's best friend last night and it's a bit weird, but Ledger also makes her very, very happy. And Kenna knows that Scotty would want her to be happy too, but don't worry, Scotty, you're still better than Ledger. And then they laugh. Kenna and Ledger continue their relationship. We're entering the third act, guys. We're entering the third act. We're almost finished. Yeah! One day, Ledger and Kenna bang at Ledger's cottage and they're talking, having an intimate moment. And Ledger asks Kenna about what truly happened during the night Scotty died. So Kenna tells him, side note, there's something really funny and low-key weird about how anytime these two get into like any sorts of romantic situations, they always end up talking about Scotty one way or another. They're very obsessed with him. I feel like if Scotty was still alive, they would be like in a throuple or something. They just cannot stop talking about Scotty. But moving on, in a scene eerily similar to Heated Rivalry, again, Patrick, Scotty's dad, walks in on Kenna and Ledger. I have no idea why Patrick was there, but he walks in and sees the two in a compromising position, and he has a similar reaction to Shane Hollander's dad, where they're like, and then they turn around and just leave. The only difference is Patrick Landry adds a little, he's your best friend, and then he just leaves. The next sequence of events is not supposed to be funny, but I have no idea why it is to me. Ledger chases after Patrick, driving back to the Landry's house, and Patrick is already outside, menacingly watering the plants in the middle of the night, just standing there like. Ledger tries to explain the situation and to defend Kenna, saying she's not bad, you just don't know the full story. But Patrick is having none of that and he decks Ledger twice. The old man, who is half Ledger's size, decks him twice, and then Patrick tells Ledger to stay away from the family. Ledger goes back to Kenna and recounts what happened, and Kenna is like, oh no, this is not good. I have to move away. You need to be part of Diem's life. It's more important for her to have you than for her to have me, or for me to have a relationship with you. Ledger is like, hold on, don't move away first, we'll figure something out. They hug each other and then calm each other down, and before Ledger leaves, he steals Kenna's notebook. He gives the notebook to the Landrys and tells them to read it. Grace is the one who reads the notebook, and I guess she was somewhat moved because the following day she goes to Kenna and lets Kenna meet Diem. Kenna finally meets Diem, and Diem introduces Kenna to her pet turtle. Moira Rose would not approve of this pet choice.
Turtles do not pets make. You may as well tie a leash around a raw chicken cutlet.
And then I sort of feel like Kenna shouldn't have done this, but Kenna straight up tells Diem, I'm your mother. I don't know, I feel like Kenna could have eased into this better, or maybe she should have let the Landrys be the person to tell Diem that she's her mother. I don't know, because like I'm not a mother, so I've never been in this position before, and I have no interest in being a literal mother, only that I want to serve mother, which I'm probably not serving. I think I just serve daughter. But back to the movie, Diem takes it well enough that Kenna is her mother and immediately asks Kenna to play together. Diem's like, push me on the swing. And I've never seen this technique before because Kenna grabs Diem's legs from the front and she either pushes or pulls on the legs, but isn't it usually you push people from the back? I wouldn't know because I don't go outside often, nor do I go on swings that often. Is this a thing? So yeah, Kenna is now able to hang out with Diem. Then Kenna has a moment with Grace as they deal with their grief together. And yeah, Kenna is now able to hang out with Diem and be in Diem's life and also date Ledger. At the end, Patrick comes up to Ledger and says, you never gave me a reason to doubt you, so if you vouch for Kenna, I believe you, son. I can't remember if he actually says son, but it felt like that. Then they see a pigeon landing on the Landry's porch. The pigeon is actually pretty significant because it's a running gag. In the past, when they were younger, Ledger and Scotty were smoking pot and they got really high, and Ledger saw something and he was like, is that a freaking pigeon? And it wasn't a pigeon, but both of them thought that was really funny and it became an inside joke between them of sorts. So that pigeon that landed on the Landry's porch is supposed to be like, oh, Scotty is in our midst. But I wouldn't know how I would feel if I pass away, knock on wood, and people see a pigeon and they're like, yes, Teresa is in our midst. That pigeon is totally Teresa. I don't know how I would feel. A pigeon! Out of all the animals, a pigeon! We end the movie with Diem and Kenna setting up the memorial for Scotty again. And in the narration, Kenna writes to Scotty about how she's sorry she hasn't written in a while, but that's because she no longer feels as lonely because she has these people in her life that are reminders of him. That's the title of the movie! My commentary or analysis about the movie isn't going to be too long, and that's mostly because I feel the movie is just fine. Is it a bad movie? Not really. Is it a good movie? Depends on who you ask. I can see a lot of people really liking the movie. Personally, for me, the movie does enough. It's not like the best movie ever, but it's still much better than Regretting You, which I thought was all over the place. But then again, that's also not a very high bar to clear either. What I can say is that, at least for me, Reminders of Him was tonally consistent. One of my biggest fears walking into the movie is that the movie would be too melodramatic or miserable. This movie does have melodramatic moments, but it never becomes too miserable, which I think is pretty good. The movie has the self-awareness to be like, yeah, the situation is effed up, but it also knows that some of the situations can be quite ridiculous as well. I know I laughed a fair bit during the recap because I have a weird sense of humor and some moments did play out a bit funny unintentionally for me, but the movie does have moments where it acknowledges that the situation can be funny. Like the scene after Kenna and Ledger hooked up for the first time and Kenna wrote that letter to Scotty about how she banked his best friend. That scene didn't play out melodramatically. They actually played out the scene quite playfully. It acknowledges that the situation is weird, but let's have a laugh nonetheless about it. And it's not in the obnoxious wink wink so that happened kind of way. It's just earnestly poking fun at the moment. I think having the movie focus more on being a feel-good movie about redemption and giving people second chances, that's also a good decision because it gives this movie this warmth and at least a thesis point on why this movie should exist in the first place, so they can play out the movie surrounding that theme. Because I feel like if a movie is already bad bad and it doesn't have a message either. It just makes watching the movie pointless. So I appreciate that this movie does have this idea of like, listen to all sides of things, do not make judgment, maybe people can change. You know, it makes things more bearable watching the movie. I also think that the performances by Maika, Monroe, Lauren Graham, and Tyriq really added to the themes as well. I know that we make fun of Colleen Hoover sometimes, and I know I did in the videos on my channel, but I appreciate that those actors treated the material with enough respect and, again, earnestness. Because I feel Regretting You is the opposite of that. It's kind of miserable, and as much as I found Allison Williams and Dave Franco's performances entertaining to watch, it's only because the performances are not good. And I also feel like, I don't know if this is true or not, I have a feeling that that movie is a paycheck for both of them. So it comes through in their performances, and their kind of humorous performances clashed with the melodramatic story. But then again, Regretting You as a story is also all over the place. Like, it wants to be a sad movie, but it also wants to be a cutesy romance movie. To that point, I have to give props to Vanessa Caswell, the director of Reminders of Him, because I do think her direction is more intentional, and there are several shots that I thought was interesting. Like, there's a sequence when Ledger and Kenna were working, and Ledger was like yearning, taking glances at Kenna, and some of the shots were lingering like on Kenna's neck, or Kenna's smile, or Kenna's hair, and I thought that was effective in showing just how much Ledger likes Kenna. Most of all, Vanessa Caswell did a great job of making sure that the tone of the movie doesn't careen out of its lane. I do think the movie is a bit too long, however. It's almost like 2 hours long, and I think it would have worked better if it was like 100 minutes instead. I found myself like counting down the time because I drank a lot of soda during the show, so I was like, oh god, please be the end, please be the end, because I just really wanted to go to the bathroom, and I feel that's probably on me. But as much as I have praised this movie, I think it's just a perfectly sufficient movie. It exists and it does its job. This review might sound good, but it's only because I was surprised that the movie wasn't that bad. In reality, Reminders of Him is sort of similar to Jason Statham action movies that you don't know exist, but you only found out about their existence when you're looking at the showtimes at a cinema and they're like, there. Those Jason Statham movies are action movies that are sufficient enough. The characters are fine and the conflict justifies the action and the action sequences are okay, but those movies don't offer anything else that you haven't seen before. It doesn't have anything that pushes it over the edge, like how John Wick escaped the B-movie allegations, because John Wick offers something new and exciting. Great choreography, cinematography, and world building. Again, Reminders of Him is just like those Jason Statham movies. It's fine enough to be an entry in the romance genre, but it's just okay. But what do you guys think? I would love to hear your thoughts as always, especially if you've read the book. If you've read the book, let me know what were the changes that they made from the book, if you caught some of them, and tell me as well, are you interested in watching the film too? Thank you for watching this video, and if you like it, please press the like button, leave a comment, or maybe even share this video. Actually, I'm daring you to share this video. I'm dog doubling daring you. I know that's not the phrase, but the sentiment still goes. Also, consider subscribing to the channel for more video essays, commentaries, recaps, or chill videos. Did I just cover my mouth with my mic just then? Anyway, I have nothing else to say apart from I will be watching Faraday. I will be there. Opening day. The novel is unhinged, that I just want to see what they'll do with the movie, and I also cannot wait to see Dakota Johnson just underreacting to whatever is happening around her. I know that she's not anybody's like favorite actress, but my god, she is pretty entertaining to watch sometimes. Anticipate that video, but that video will only come in October because the movie is coming out in October. How many months is that? We're in March and then that movie is in October, so that's 7 more months. Anyway, thanks guys and have a good night, day, dusk, dawn, midnight, early morning, late night, whatever time it is when you're watching this. Yeah, bye guys.